point, the sign-up
one other
sheet
thing I
is
have to
over there.
say.
Oh, yes.
So we've gotten a little bit of support from AT&T to hold this event, so thank you, AT&T.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
I'm done.
Okay, so our sign-up sheet is over there if anybody else wants to add their name to it, and you have about 5 to 7 minutes. We would like for you to, if you're doing music, to play original songs or something in the public domain, and otherwise anything else I think is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our first performer is Philip Drexler. He's like a music stand or anything like that?
No, ma'am, I'm gonna sit down.
All right.
These old bones just can't standing up anymore. It's kind of a disadvantage because I am a storyteller, but fortunately I'm a large man, so I'm still on a fairly high level when I sit down. So, it's going to be Martin Luther King Day in a few days. So I thought I'd tell this story in honor of Martin Luther King Day. It's an old story. It's back from the Brothers Grimm, as a matter of fact. That's how old it is. It's called The Bone Flute. The kingdom was being terrorized by a vicious wild boar. And the king, in desperation, said, "The man that will bring that wild boar to my castle dead on a pole will have the hand of my only daughter and will become my son-in-law and heir to the kingdom." And so two brothers set out to go kill that boar and take the princess' hand and become heirs to the kingdom. The older brother was proud and arrogant. The younger brother was diligent, humble, and resourceful. They both went about their business looking for the boar. But the younger brother was very systematic in his efforts to find him in the forest. And sure enough, in a very short time, as he was crossing a bridge over a deep ravine, he turned at the head of the bridge, and there was the boar at the other end of the bridge, staring him right in the eye. "Hi, Richard. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time."
Hi, Phil.
Good to see you. Well, they stared at each other, and they both knew what they were going to do. So the boar dug his heels in, pawed the ground, started snorting, and the younger brother took up his sword and began running, and the boar began running at him. And they ran pell-mell right at each other across that bridge and met right in the middle, and the younger brother took his sword and stuck it right in that boar's mouth and ran him right through his body and killed him right there on the spot. Bang. Dead. And he dressed that boar out and put him on a pole and put him on a pallet and slung that pallet over his shoulder, and he started to drag him to the palace to get his reward, the princess and the kingdom. He'd only gotten to the end of the bridge when he met his proud, arrogant older brother and exclaimed that he had gotten the prize. The older brother wasn't happy. And the older brother thought to himself, all I have to do is kill him and take the boar to the castle, and I get the prize. And that's exactly what he did. Whomp! Hit him with his sword. Took his body, threw it in the ravine, covered it with as much dirt, and limbs and branches as he possibly could. Took the pallet, put it on the back of his horse, drug it up to the castle, got the princess's hand, became the son-in-law of the king and the heir of the kingdom. Not many days later, a woodsman was crossing the bridge, and he happened to look over the side, and he saw something gleaming white in the sun. And it looked interesting to him, so he decided to go down and check it out. And when he got down there, he found that it was a leg bone of a man. And he thought, that is just the right length for a flute. I need a flute. So he pulled it out, and he took it home, and he carved it into a flute. And he decided to try it out. And he started to blow it, but instead of notes coming out, a voice came out and said, I am the bone of the younger son of the prince who has stolen my princess and my kingdom. He said, that's very strange. So he tried to blow it again, and it said exactly the same thing. I am the bone of the younger brother of the prince who has stolen my princess and my kingdom. He didn't know what to do about that. So he took it into his wife and said, see if you hear what I hear. And he blew into it, and it said to the wife, I am the younger brother of the prince who has stolen my princess and my kingdom. Yeah, I heard it. Well, what do you got to do about it? She said, you can't hide this. You've got to take it to the sheriff. So he went to the sheriff, and he played the flute for the sheriff, and it said the same thing. I am the bone of the younger brother of the prince who has stolen the princess and my kingdom. The sheriff said, I can't deal with this on the local level. I've got to take this to the prime minister. And so they went to the castle. And the woodsman played for the prime minister, and again it said the same thing. I am the bone of the younger brother of the prince who has stolen my princess and my kingdom. And the prime minister said, the king has to hear this. And so the woodsman played it for the king. And the flute said, I am the bone of the prince who stole the princess and my kingdom. And the king was livid. And he called for the prince to be brought before him. And he asked him if this was true. And the prince had to admit that yes, it was true. And he said, you must die. And they took him out and they executed him. And the king said to the woodsman, take my men to where you found that bone, and men dig up every one of that man's bones and bring them to the castle. And they did. And he said, put it in the grandest sarcophagus that you can in the castle, and we will have the grandest funeral that has ever been seen in the land. And woodsman, you will play a dirge for the younger brother, and my daughter will sing the sweetest hymn for he who should have been her husband at that funeral. And so it was done. And the king ordered that the woodsman should play a hymn to the younger brother every morning thereafter. And that's how the story ends. And the reason I tell that story with regard to Dr. King is because Dr. King said that the arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. And that story illustrates that truth. Thank you.